Hey everybody, Tony Bacciagalupo with New Work Cities here, and in this conversation I will be speaking with Greg Hayes, co-founder and CEO of Bureau. Bureau sells office furniture to co-working spaces and other similar type spaces, trying to find that sweet spot between the cheap and the expensive stuff. Without further ado, here's the interview. Okay, Greg, it is such a pleasure to have you along. Thanks for taking the time to sit with me.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
Awesome. So first of all, just give me a little bit of background on you, your business, what your role is, how you got into this world. Just kind of give me the 2-minute summary on how you ended up where you are.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of Bureau. We're an office furniture company. We started Bureau about 6 months ago with the intention to solve the problem of furnishing offices affordably, flexibly, and easily. My background is in commercial real estate, and what I found throughout my career is that it is incredibly difficult to furnish an office in those three ways: affordably, easily, and flexibly. And so we set out to create a new model which cuts out the middleman and allows companies to furnish their office beautifully with very high quality furniture, and to do it quickly. Instead of having to wait 6-8 weeks to get their furniture, they're able to get their furniture in anywhere from 72 hours to 5 days. And because we're cutting out layers and layers of middlemen that exist in the traditional office furniture industry, we're able to do it for about half of the price that you traditionally would pay for high quality office furniture. And just to touch on how we got there with this idea. So me and my co-founders all come from commercial real estate backgrounds. And so we had seen for years how difficult this can be. And me specifically, I spent the last couple of years working for a flexible workspace provider. And as you'll know, when you're operating a flexible workspace, you're not just an operating company, you're also really a procurement company. And furniture is probably the most difficult thing to procure. And that experience taught me that there's got to be a better way to get this done.
Gotcha. And so procuring furniture is a very huge part of provisioning any workspace. And in the co-working world, obviously it's a big cost. And in the co-working world, it's also a part of your brand. So what you buy and how you approach it could affect how much you can charge and how easily you can attract new customers and that kind of thing. But it can also be outrageously expensive. And so
Yes.
a lot of what you're saying is, sounds too good to be true. So the skeptic in me has questions, and I'm excited to hear how you answer them.
Yeah.
If we take a step back first, tell me a little bit more about your experience with what you saw, with what was happening kind of before this business started. Give me more about what you were seeing in that world and the real challenges that come with furniture procurement.
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we saw was that you really had two bad options when you were purchasing office furniture. So you could go the inexpensive route and you could get stuff from the likes of IKEA and Office Depot and Amazon. And that stuff is affordable, but we don't necessarily think that it's very good value because it doesn't last very long, especially in an office setting. And when you're looking at things like ergonomic chairs, they're not truly ergonomic and they're not very good to sit in for a full day or for many days at a time. So that was your first bad option.
I can attest to this, having run the MySpace on the route that you're describing, and it comes yeah.
We've seen lots of it. And then it becomes just as expensive because you're having to replace that furniture 6, 12, 18 months in. And then your other option is to go the high-end route. And so when you go in that direction, you're buying from the likes of Herman Miller, Steelcase, Knoll, Hayworth, really, really beautiful, high-quality furniture. But astronomically expensive. And so we really dug into what makes that furniture so expensive. And there are a number of things, but really the big issue is that there are so many middlemen. And the biggest middleman, the one who takes the largest chunk out of the process, are the furniture dealers. So depending on the piece of furniture that you're buying, the furniture dealer can be adding as much as 50% to the cost of that furniture. And so we looked for, is there anyone in the market creating a high quality office furniture product, but at kind of a middle of the market price? And it didn't really exist, at least not to the quality that we thought was needed to run a co-working space or to run a high-end office. And so we worked back how are the high-end manufacturers, what is the process that they go through between them making the furniture and the furniture ending up in an office, and what stages of that can be cut out to create savings. And so we cut out a number of stages, but the biggest one is we cut out the furniture dealers, and because of that, we're able to create office furniture that is, what you would call, if not Herman Miller and Steelcase quality furniture, very, very close to it, but at 50% or sometimes less than 50% of the price.
Gotcha. And so just the cutting out the middleman side of it seems like such a big opportunity for savings. Um, and so what can you give me some are there like real life examples, even just kind of like a single case study, like a task chair or something where you could give me a sense of like where your stuff sits in the world?
Yeah, so a task chair, an ergonomic task chair is a great example. So when you look at the high end of the market, the price point will range anywhere from, the low end of the high end will be about $800 for a chair, and the high end of the high end will run you over $2,000 per chair, and you can imagine how that adds up. There's some interesting science that has gone over to the ergonomics over the years, but it's pretty much made its way into every high-end chair that exists. And so you're looking for things like lumbar support. You're looking for anywhere from 4 to 6 points of adjustment, and you're looking for high-quality materials between the cushion, the backing of the chair, and the actual component that controls all the movements of the chair below. And so what we did was we found manufacturing partners and design partners that were making chairs of this quality, and who, in some cases, actually make the chairs for the very high-end companies. And again, by cutting out layers of middlemen in between, you're actually able to create a very similar quality chair. But in our case, we're able to sell that chair for less than $400 per unit. So in the case of a chair, you're looking at sometimes 30% of the cost of a competitive chair for basically the exact same quality.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Cool. And in terms of just overall working with a space to figure out how best to um, work with their budget, help them kind of get their project up and running. How
Mhm.
do you work with a space? And I'm thinking about this kind of from my own perspective as someone who ran a space where we really didn't have enough money to do it the right way. And probably more than anything, a furniture company would like we tried working with one of them for a little bit. Would probably have like been best suited helping us raise money more than anything, because we didn't capitalize it well enough to buy what we really should have.
Mhm.
So like, what's that like working with people at spaces of different levels? Because some places they do have the money to pay you for furniture.
Yeah.
Some places probably just don't have the cash, and you need to kind of like work with them a little bit, figure out how to get that relationship going. What's that like?
You're totally right. So for some companies, the price of the office furniture is not an issue, and when they're choosing to work with us, the reason that they're doing that is just because they can find savings, and so if they can find it, they will. Most companies seem to fall right into kind of our basket, our price point. But when we're dealing with companies that otherwise would be looking at something like IKEA, there are a few things that can help them out. So one of them is that we include in our price, we're including everything from the space design all the way through to the cost of the furniture, the delivery, and the assembly of that furniture. So while a chair for $350 may sound like a lot of money, when you add in some of the other costs like planning the space and having the furniture assembled, you're probably getting to right around the same all-in cost. Then the other thing is we're happy to work with companies on payment plans. So we know that not everyone can afford to spend $100,000 furnishing their space in one go, and so some companies would like to pay for that over a 6 or 12-month period. And we're happy to help companies out because look, the whole reason that we're doing this is to make it easier for companies to furnish their spaces with great office furniture.
Gotcha. So I think the financing makes a huge difference. Obviously, if you can pay it off over a longer period of time, then then really you become kind of aligned with them in terms of their journey, like wanting to make this successful for everybody. So that sounds really cool. And have you noticed anything in particular with co-working spaces or shared workspaces as opposed to more like traditional office clients in terms of what their needs are, or what you're doing to kind of adapt for the way the workforce is changing?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things with co-working spaces. One is that the quality of the furniture does have to be high, because when a company is using a space flexibly, they maybe don't feel the same sense of ownership, and they're probably a little bit harder on the furniture than they might be if it were their own office. And so it's really important for these co-working flexible workspaces to make sure that the quality of the furniture is there. So we definitely are hearing that from them. The other thing that we're hearing is that some form of personalization is very important. So there's less concern about, about very, very specific forms of personalization that you might get with really, really high-end custom furniture. But what they do care about are things like being able to customize the colors. So, for instance, if they're buying filing cabinets to go with the desks, and they want soft seating on the filing cabinets, they want to see 20 different colors that they could use to match with their brand. And so that's one of the things that we're working with flexible space companies on.
Gotcha. Great. And what else? I'm thinking about the market of the folks who might be listening to this conversation, and I imagine a lot of them are folks who are starting new spaces, maybe expanding, wanting to get it better, get it done right the second time. What kind of advice would you offer for someone in that position who's trying to figure out how to approach this stuff, just from what you've seen before? What works, what doesn't work, what to avoid, that kind of things.
Yeah, so two things that I would say. One is definitely make sure that you are actually visiting the showrooms of whichever companies you're potentially going to work with, because we've seen this where stuff looks really good in pictures, and then we show up in our case, we show up at the manufacturer, and you touch it and you feel it, and the quality's not there the way that you think it might be just looking at pictures. So that's a big piece of advice
It's
that I would
especially
give.
true on the internet, right? I mean, you look at stuff on
Yeah.
Amazon. Anybody who's ordered something on Amazon that, you know, where like technically it looks like the picture, and then you get it, and it's actually not at all what you thought it would be. Yeah.
You're totally right, and we've seen this where we've been in factories overseas, and we see chairs that are being sold on sites like Amazon and Staples.com, and we know that those chairs are being sold for $130 or $140, and so we ask how much if we wanted to order these chairs, and the chairs can be as low as $8 or $12 per unit. So you're really
What?
not getting, yeah, you're really not getting a very high quality product. So make sure that you go and you actually touch and feel the product and you get a sense of it. That's a big one. And then the other really big piece of advice that I would say is understand all of the costs that are associated. So understand how much more you're going to have to pay to have a plan done with the furniture. Understand how much more you're going to pay to have the product delivered. How much more does it cost to have it assembled? That's a big one, because some furniture dealers will include these things, but many won't. So make sure that you're working with a furniture dealer who's going to include these things in the price, or at least give you an opportunity to negotiate to get those things in the price.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Cool. And where's your mind going in terms of where things are going from here for the company, and I guess for the industry in general? Like, what do you see as being a part of where all this is going now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we think that furniture is going to get smarter and smarter. There's a limit to how smart it needs to be. Being office furniture, it doesn't need to do too much. But when you think about things like having charging pads built into the furniture, you think about Bluetooth connected standing desks, things like that. If you look at what our furniture line is going to look like in 12 to 18 months, it will definitely include those things. And we think same for the competitors. There hasn't been a lot of innovation in how the industry, in the actual, the form of the industry and the way that you buy your furniture, but there is starting to be some change in the way that the furniture is actually manufactured, and it's all for the better. And so those things are going to give a flexible workspace owner or the owner of a company a much better understanding of how people are working within their spaces.
Gotcha. Yeah, I imagine it's an interesting challenge because you want to be able to adapt to the shifting winds of technology, and having like the wireless charging being a major topic there, where the demand is there, it's a hot thing, people are going to be asking about it, but you also need to think about the long term. Is this something that's going to last for a really long time? If I buy a
Mhm.
piece of furniture that's going to last 10 years, or I don't know how many years that you're thinking of these things in terms of, but will the technology be the same technology during that time? Is it going to get outdated faster? Can it be adapted to new technology?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of like conversations that need to be had there, which I imagine you guys are working to strike the balance of, in terms of what do we decide that we're going to jump on versus what are we going to wait out and see what takes.
You're totally right. And just on the timeline, another interesting thing that's happening, and this is a big change in the industry, is because of the flexible office market that's now available to companies, they're expecting, when they get their own space, they're expecting to take that space for a shorter and shorter period of time. With office furniture, you typically use the furniture for one lease. So if you're in the space for 3 or 4 years, although we do offer a 10-year warranty on all of our furniture, you probably won't actually use the furniture for that 7, 10 years, whatever the warranty is for the higher end furniture. And so that's a big change that's happening in our world, and it's driven by your world.
And in terms of now that you're mentioning kind of the shelf life of these things, um, how does that work in terms of sustainability, reuse of materials, things like that? What's going on in the furniture world around those kinds of conversations?
So right now, about 91% of office furniture gets used once, and then it gets thrown out. And when it gets thrown out, 71% of the time, it can't be recycled. It either gets incinerated or it goes into a dump. So it's really, really bad for the
That's
environment.
like
The entire
big, heavy, resource intensive. I mean, that's horrendous.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And there are a few reasons for that. One of the reasons is that when companies move into a new office space, they often don't want to take their furniture with them because they're going for a reset. It's a new start, and they don't want their old furniture, so they don't bring it with them. Um, Another reason is that because of the highly, highly personalized nature of traditional contract furniture, it's really hard to resell that furniture. So there often isn't a used market for it. So with our furniture, it's much more standardized. There are far fewer SKUs. And so we're actually, in an effort to be more environmentally friendly, we're actually offering credits back to our customers if, when they're done with their furniture, if they let us come pick it up for them, which saves them the cost of having to throw it out. They let us come pick it up for them and take it back and refurbish it. We'll actually give them a credit towards their next purchase. And so for us, it does a couple of things. It creates a refurbished market within our platform, but it also allows us to be environmentally friendly and give that furniture a second and even a third shot at life.
Terrific. I love that. Makes so much sense, and it allows you to sell a refurbished product. So I mean, it's another
Exactly.
market for you. And so that's something, if I'm wanting to buy furniture, wanting to nice furniture, but also mindful of my pocketbook, it could be that I check out your
Yeah,
marketplace.
exactly. And it's a good answer to your previous question about what can we do for companies who don't have the budget. And right now there's not a huge offering of used furniture, but ultimately, and this is a couple of years away, but ultimately there will be a lot of used furniture on our site, and it will be, it's modular furniture, easy to assemble, just a lot easier to handle than what you traditionally think of as kind of complicated, unesthetically pleasing used furniture.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm thinking about this from the perspective of other stuff where somebody might throw out a table because the surface is scratched, right?
Exactly.
And it doesn't get resold, it doesn't get recycled, it just goes away because the surface is scratched up. Whereas you, the manufacturer of that table, could very easily take that table and maybe even just apply a new coat on top, or sand it down,
Exactly.
or use whatever process you can, and not even do that much to it to get it back to a place where you could sell it to somebody that looks like it's brand new.
Yep, that's exactly the idea.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're doing it. Now I'm inclined to check out your stuff. So where do I go? Where do folks watching this go if they want to see more about what you have to offer? And can I see your refurb stuff online too?
Yeah, no refurb stuff is online yet, but it's exactly the same as what you see with the new stuff. But in order to, if you want to come see us, we're in Manhattan. We've got a showroom in Manhattan. just north of Flatiron. We're at 28th and Broadway in Nomad. And if you're not in New York, we're delivering nationwide. And we can be found at bureauwork.com. That's BUREAUWORK.com.
There you go, bureauwork.com. Greg, so great to chat with you. Thanks for taking the time.
Tony, thanks for having me.
All right. And that's my interview with Greg. Check out more about all the stuff we have to offer for you if you're building a co-working space at nwc.co. Until next time, keep being awesome.